Hello everyone and thank you for watching. My name is Mataj and today I'll be exploring a fascinating gene that's often called the language gene, also known as FOXP2. This gene has captured the attention of linguists, neuroscientists, and even evolutionary biologists because of the role it plays in one of the most unique human traits, speech and language. So why should we focus on FOXP2? Because understanding this gene opens up a window into how our brains are wired for communication, something we often take for granted but is deeply complex at the genetic and neural levels. Let's now move on to the goals of this presentation. First, I want to help you gain knowledge about the FOXP2 gene, what it is, what it does, and why it matters. Second, I'll be integrating my learning from this course, connecting the gene to key biological aspects like transcription, inheritance, and phenotypic expression. Third, I'll be explaining the structure and function of FOXP2, particularly how it works as a transcription factor. Fourth, I'll go over the inheritance and transmission patterns, especially the Mendelian aspects. Fifth, we'll look at the evolutionary significance of this gene, comparing its function in humans with that of other species. And finally, I'll discuss what happens when this gene is mutated, particularly focusing on a rare but impactful mutation called the R553H. So what exactly is FOXP2? This FOXP2 gene is a protein coding gene that belongs to the FOX family, which stands for fork-head box. This family of genes produces transcription factors, which are special proteins that control when other genes are turned on or off. In simpler terms, FOXP2 acts like a master switch, telling certain genes when to activate during development, particularly in the brain. This is critically important because during early development, timing's everything. Turning genes on or off at the wrong time can disrupt the formation of neural circuits that are essential for movement, memory, and in this case, language. FOXP2 is especially active in regions of the brain that are involved in speech, such as the basal ganglia and Broca's area. These areas help us plan movements, string together sounds, and produce clear, fluid speech. FOXP2 isn't only found in the brain. It's also expressed in the lungs and the gastrointestinal tract. However, its role in the brain is what makes it so famous. Let's talk more about the function of the FOXP2 protein. The FOXP2 protein is a transcription factor, meaning it binds directly to DNA. And helps control the activity of other genes, especially those involved in the growth and wiring of the nervous system. In the brain, FOXP2 fine-tunes the development of neural circuits that allow us to sequence words, understand grammar, and learn how to speak. It doesn't make speech happen on its own, but without it, the system doesn't develop correctly. For example, in young children, FOXP2 helps guide the formation of speech motor pathways. If it's mutated or missing, those pathways can be miswired, leading to delays or disorders in the speech. It's worth mentioning that FOXP2 is active both before and after birth. During the fetal period, it helps lay down the foundational circuits, and in adults, it likely plays a role in maintaining these circuits or helping us adapt to new language or speech experiences. Let's now look at the molecular description. FOXP2 is located on chromosome 7 at a position known as 7q31. That's on the long arm or Q arm of chromosome 7. To be exact, according to the Human Genome Assembly, it spans from base pair 113,720,791 to base pair 114,042,260. That makes the gene over 321,000 base pairs in size, quite large for a single gene. This region of the chromosome 7 is known for containing several genes related to brain development and neurological function, which reinforces FOXP2's importance. Its complex structure also suggests it's tightly regulated, which makes sense considering how critical it is during early brain development. So what allele are we focused on? One of the most well-known mutations in the FOXP2 gene is called the R553H. This mutation results in a single amino acid change in the DNA binding domain of the FOXP2 protein. It replaces an arginine with a histidine at position 553. So why does that matter? because this change interferes with the protein's ability to bind to DNA correctly. When that happens, the gene can't control other genes properly, which throws off normal brain development, especially in the speech and language centers. This mutation is most closely associated with a condition known as developmental verbal dysprasia, or DVD. Individuals with DVD know what they want to say, but they struggle to physically pronounce the words. This is not because of hearing loss or general intelligence, but because the motor planning part of their brain isn't working the way it should. People with this condition speak slowly or use distorted sounds. They often have trouble stringing syllables together, forming complete sentences, or using proper grammar. Some also experience challenges with language comprehension and written expression. People with this condition may speak slowly, or this makes FOXP2 one of the first genes ever directly linked to a human language disorder, which is why it's been so heavily studied. Let's move on to the transmission type. FOXP2 is inherited through sexual reproduction, and like all autosomal genes, it follows Mendelian inheritance principles. Since it's located on chromosome 7, an autosome, it's not sex-linked, meaning it affects people of any gender equally. Mutations in the FOXP2 gene, including the one we focused on, follow an autosomal dominant inheritance pattern. This means that one mutated copy of the gene is enough to cause symptoms. If a parent has a mutation, there's a 50% chance they'll pass it on to each of their children. It's also important to know that FOXP2 is highly conserved, which means it doesn't change much from one generation to the next. That tells us how vital this gene is. Even small changes can have big effects. Finally, let's talk about the evolutionary significance. Interestingly, FOXP2 is not unique to humans. It's found in many animals, including birds, mice, and primates, but with slight differences. In fact, what makes humans unique is that our version of FOXP2 has 2 amino acid substitutions that are different from those in chimpanzees, our closest relatives. These changes occurred around 200,000 years ago, just as anatomically modern humans were emerging, and they likely contributed to our ability to develop complex speech and language. When researchers gave human-like versions of FOXP2 to mice, the mice showed changes in vocalization patterns and brain structure, which hints at how influential this gene really is. Let's sum it all up. The FOXP2 gene produces a transcription factor that is crucial for speech and language development. It's located on chromosome 7 and spans over 321,000 base pairs. It regulates many genes during brain development and is active in the brain, lungs, and gut. The R553H mutation interferes with its DNA binding ability and causes developmental verbal dysprasia. It is inherited on an autosomal dominant pattern, and finally, the presence is in other species and changes were seen in humans, and this gives us clues about the evolution of language. Understanding FOXP2 not only helps us diagnose and treat speech disorders, but it also gives us a deeper insight into what makes us human, our ability to communicate with language. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this presentation gave you a clear and complete understanding of the FOXP2 gene and its powerful impact on human development.